Hello, and welcome to our presentation on private funds in the Cayman Islands. In this video, we provide a summary of private funds and their registration requirements. If you would like further specific advice or to receive a more detailed guidance note on private funds, reach out to us at stewartslaw.com and we will be happy to help.
The Cayman Islands have become the leading offshore jurisdiction for the establishment of mutual funds and private funds. The phenomenal growth of the funds industry in the Cayman Islands has been due in part to the use of innovative legislation and the absence of taxation and exchange controls. This, together with the presence of sophisticated and professional service providers, has resulted in the jurisdiction's reputation for responsible supervision and regulation of funds.
Let's start by asking the Stewarts team some questions. Chris Humphreys is the Managing Director of Stewarts and is the head of the funds team. He has over 20 years' experience in establishing funds in the Cayman Islands and has set up close to 1,000 funds throughout his career. Chris is recognised by leading global directories such as Chambers & Partners, IFLR and Legal 500 as being both a highly regarded lawyer and a leading individual in his field. Chris, what is a private fund?
Thank you. Broadly, a private fund is a collective investment scheme which pools investor funds. The fund can be structured as a company, as a segregated portfolio company, as an LLC, a partnership, or unit trust. The mutual fund will issue equity interests to investors with the aim of spreading risk and enabling the investors to receive gains from the investments. Equity interests include shares, units, and partnership interests. But critically, the equity interest should not be redeemable at the option of the investor. Under Cayman Islands law, that's what makes it a closed-ended fund and subject to the Private Funds Act. I think it would be helpful to discuss what is not included under the Private Funds Act. Private Funds Act applies to all closed-ended funds, which in the Cayman Islands are funds in which the investors have no right to redeem their interest at their option. If there's a right to redeem their interest, then the Private Funds Act doesn't apply, and instead we'd be looking at the Mutual Funds Act to see if that applies instead. Further, a fund with a single investor has no commingling of assets, and it's not registrable under the Private Funds Act either. Lastly, equity interests do not include debt issuance, so a fund which issues debt isn't subject to the registration process under the Private Funds Act. Importantly, the definition of private fund doesn't include any of the non-fund arrangements. These include pension funds, joint ventures, securitizations, SPVs, holding vehicles, and many more. We'll advise if any of these apply on a case-by-case basis, but you can get more details on these non-fund arrangements from our other podcasts and guidance notes.
Thank you. For private funds, what are the registration requirements?
The Private Funds Act sets out a registration process for private funds, which involves the filing of prescribed details with the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority and the payment of an annual fee. The Private Funds Act also sets out the requirements on the content of the private funds offering materials. Private funds are also required to submit an annual audit and file accounts within 6 months of the year end of the financial year. This will involve appointing an auditor based in the Cayman Islands. Where a private fund makes any changes or becomes aware of any changes that materially affect the information submitted to the authority, or it changes its registered office or the location of its principal office, the private fund must, within 21 days of making that change, notify the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority.
That brings us to the end of this presentation. For more information, listen to our other videos and podcasts in the series or visit us online at stewartslaw.com.